Welcome to Fitness Casual. We help you ditch diets and build habits no matter how busy you are. I'm Andrew Hayes, and Happy New Year, Kat Best.
Hello, hello.
Kat, are you a New Year's resolution person? And
I am.
If not, or if so, you have any New Year's resolutions?
I am absolutely not a New Year's resolution person, but I'm a little more open-minded to them this year. I do think I haven't met many people who stick to New Year's resolutions, and I'm pretty goal-oriented all times of the year. But because I have had a shoulder surgery back in September, I do have a lot of goals that I have to work hard to hit if I want to hit them by end of next year. So my New Year's resolution will be to have, let's say, 5 consecutive pull-ups by end of year.
I like that. Do you know
I would
your
say
approach?
10. 10's a lot, though.
10's a lot.
Go
I
with
think
5. 10's a lot.
if I'm on my game, I can do 10, and I'm
Yeah.
like pretty built for pull-ups with my lean muscle mass, so I think that's
5.
a lot for anybody. Do you have an approach that you're going to take, or you haven't thought that through yet?
So I'm a big fan of negatives.
Yep.
I've always responded very well to doing pull-up negatives. And then my gym has actually a really good assisted machine that I think is as mimics as natural pull-up as you can get. So between negatives, that, maybe band assisted, but those are so annoying to set up. I truly hate setting that up. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then if I get to 2 body weight ones, then I would probably add some load, like a hanging plate or something, because that's so much easier to get to 5 if you start loading a little bit. So, but we'll see. I hopefully will be able to just do a full dead hang at the 6-month mark. So we'll go from there, but that's definitely on my radar for this year.
That's exciting. I like that. Very measurable. When you set goals, it's important to be able to look back and say, did I achieve it? I'd say that you nailed it with that. That's good. Katie Gatti Tassin, our client from last year, could do a lot of pull-ups. I think maybe more than me. We were in a pull-up challenge at one point. We were coaching her. So you can always reach out to her, see what her secret is too.
Yeah,
But she had
pull-ups are weird. Some people can just blast them out. No problem. Don't do them. They could just do them. And some people work so hard and can't do them. It's very weird that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I am also not a New Year resolution person. I have targets pretty much weekly, monthly, quarterly we do for our business and for ourselves. So it's not anything I'm super focused on. But I would say one thing I'm trying to do is just be more structured with how I use my phone. I think like many people, just kind of grab it too often, almost like a tick, like, let me check my phone. And so I have played around with the focus modes and turning off notifications and being better about being present with my children. But I find when I'm alone, it's really easy to be like, let me see what's happening. Let me Slack, that kind of stuff. And we use Slack for our business. It's very real time, which is great, but it's also, there's always kind of something to talk about. So I'm going to try to build some better boundaries, especially now that I work from home. The blinds get blurred very easily between work and personal. So we'll see how I do with that.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a good one for everybody listening.
That's right.
I bet you use your phone too much.
And man, you're not going to believe me when I tell you this, but if you have a corporate job, just put your phone away. It's not important. I know it's easier for me to say this now because I quit corporate world and I run my own business. And so I have my own excuse of I need to look at my phone more. But the truth is who cares? They're paying you to work 40 hours a week. They're taking advantage of you if you do more than that. Set those boundaries. That's the beauty of a W-2 paycheck is you can clock in and clock out figuratively. Please don't be working at 9 p.m. There's always going to be more work. Just put your phone away.
Yeah,
that's my
a
2
really
cents.
good one.
No one asked for that, but Okay, well, today we are going to talk about 5 habits to really make your goals achievable this year. And I am partly joking when I say that we could have done a podcast to drink water, eat more protein, eat more vegetables, walk 30 minutes a day. There's your 4 or 5 habits right there. And I believe those are some of the ones we did last year because we had a mini challenge. And the truth is those are always going to be habits that you should work on. And if you haven't signed up for our challenge yet, you should do that. We will plug that again at the end of this podcast. But we want to give you something a little different. We want to give you some of the real tricks of the trade that we give our clients And so we're giving you 5 habits that maybe you've never thought of before. Maybe you're doing one or maybe none of them. And we believe genuinely that all 5 of these are transformative. So we're excited to give you these. But what I would say is if you're driving right now or you're doing whatever, multitasking probably while you're listening to this, make a note to write these down and to figure out how you're going to implement them. We do have them in the show notes as well. But you can't just put these in the back of your brain and then figure out when to do them later. You have to be intentional about when to execute these. That really is a big part of it. So we'll cover it at the end too, but don't just listen to this and then throw it away. Make sure you actually act on these 5 habits.
100%. And these habits are also with the assumption that you do want to improve nutrition and fitness for the most part.
Sure.
They can work for other goals you might have, but we're kind of assuming you want to improve those things. So these are habits that will make that happen that aren't directly telling you like what to eat exactly.
Exactly right. Exactly. Okay, great. Anything else you want to add before we get into the specific habits? I know it's the new year. People are busy. We can just dive right in.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, great. Number 1, everyone's least favorite, but so important, is take photos of yourself from the front, from the side, and from the back. And there are many reasons for this. Number 1 is unless you're doing pulling out calipers and measuring your body fat percentage, and arguably the only way to really do it, you're not going to see the changes that you're making if you have a weight loss goal, a muscle building goal, reduce bloating. It's really hard to see those on the scale. But if you take pictures, your body composition can be very noticeable. Sometimes the only change outside of what you feel inside. And so taking those photos is so important to see those changes. And it's also important because it is a way to commit. And we talk about this a lot. A lot of people say they're going to do something. Tomorrow's the day I'm going to eat healthy. Or tomorrow is the day they eat healthy, but then it only lasts one day. When you take those photos of yourself, you are committing to take them every month. And you are putting pressure on yourself to stick with those changes in a good way. Obviously, if they're triggering for you, we can talk about that, but it's really important to take that day and revisit it on a monthly basis and see how you're doing because it will keep you on track.
100%. The photos will show things that the scale will never tell you. And if photos were not part of our requirement for coaching, we would have had a rough time because then we're only going by scale, and a lot of our clients feel so much relief when they see their photos and they're like, oh, wow, I see some abs, or I look leaner, or my waist looks tighter. And they don't really care that much about what the scale is saying because you can clearly see it in the photos. And at the end of the day, everyone wants to look better and feel better. And it doesn't really matter what number on the scale is if you are feeling a lot better about your body. You may think the scale number matters a lot, but trust me, when it comes to losing fat and building muscle, there's just so much more there than just the weight on the scale. So the visual comparison side by side will be, really enlightening. You can also catch some muscle imbalances. I will say that's one positive thing. You can see posture changes. That's a huge one for us as well. I know, Andrew, you're big on like the posture changes, but you can just see all sorts of things from your body. And look, these are brutal to take. Mm-hmm. I hate them. I'm sure Andrew hates them.
I do.
I have never met a client who was like, my favorite day is here. Everyone hates it. But a big thing, like I even ask myself this, is like, what am I avoiding? Like, what am I avoiding? Like looking at, this is my body. I live in this body and I can't even look at it like from a regular angle that's not contorted to like look the way I want it to look. Like you're avoiding something that also is probably important to, take the photos to get past that discomfort. Of course, there are circumstances if it could be like super triggering, if it sends you down like a mental health spiral that's truly not okay. We're not talking about that, but I'm talking about like you just haven't taken a good look at your body in 10 years, time to take some photos. And put them somewhere. You could put them in a special folder on your phone and then just repeat those every 4 weeks. One thing I like to do is maybe instead of taking individual photos, you just set up a video and kind of stand and like slowly turn. That's a really easy way if you're kind of confused by the the self timer and all of that. You could just take a video and that can be a really good one. But you got to do this. And the reason we have it as like a transformative habit is because you will either see changes you're making that you didn't know you were, so you can be happy about them. Or you could see, like, I'm not actually making any progress, so I need to change something I'm doing. You know, and you'll be so happy in a year from now or just a couple months to see what you used to look like, because that's where it's really fun to see your before and afters. You know, sometimes for the first few months, you might not notice all that much, but 6 months, 8 months, 1 year to see how much your body has changed, that's pretty incredible stuff. So highly recommend you do this.
There are probably 0 people on this planet who wake up and look in the mirror. I don't care what kind of shape they're in, and look in the mirror and say, "Oh, I wouldn't change a thing about myself." Mm-hmm. Everyone is their own worst critic. And I totally understand that there are people out there who, you know, look great and make a living off of their physique, but they say the same thing. And so you just have to be proud of your progress. And this is one way to really do that. Because if this scale doesn't move at all, and Kat, how often do you get a call from a client that the scale isn't moving? Is that like a weekly occurrence?
All the time. Multiple times a week.
Right. The scale is not going to move as often as you want, or it will move fast early on and then plateau, which is all of these things are normal, but you will continue to see progress if you are putting in the work. And that makes you really proud of the body that you're in, because you are making progress. And that is why, by the way, we put these photos up on our website and on our Instagram. There is no one perfect body. We don't promote any particular type of physique, but we love championing progress. Because we want to show people that if you can commit to something, even just for a few months, you can see more progress than you've ever seen in your whole life. And we see it every single week. And it doesn't usually happen with the scale. Or a lot of times the scale will trick you into thinking you're making progress when you're not. So please, as uncomfortable as these are, take the photos.
100%.
Last thing, by the way, just on a tactical level, set up the phone on something 5 feet away from you, so to speak. Put it on a self-timer. If you don't know how to do that, you think you swipe up on an iPhone and hit 3 seconds or 10 seconds. Don't hold the phone and do that like where you're twisting your arm over your back and try to get behind you, because the worse the photos are to start, the worse you're going to have to compare. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to see. And so either have someone take it for you. If that's uncomfortable, I understand. Put it on like your nightstand or something, or in your bathroom, and take a picture with it not in your hand, please.
Love it.
Excellent. So yes, please do the photos. Don't skip number 1. That's why we put it first. Number 2, if you follow us or work with us, you have heard us talk about this, but I do think it's a very underrated principle, which is the importance of eating fiber every day. And what do we recommend, Kat, to start? Maybe 30 grams per day?
So for women, we want at least 25 grams minimum, and then men, 30 grams, 35. But it kind of goes by weight. So if you're maybe over 200 pounds, definitely trying to get that 30 to 35. If you're lighter weight, then you don't need as much. If you have gut issues, then you may want to have a little bit more than 25. But somewhere, I would say at least 25 is what I'm always looking for as a minimum. And I don't really care about a maximum unless someone also has digestive distress from eating too much fiber, which can happen, but doesn't happen all that often, because most people's diet is very deficient in fiber.
Right. Especially if you're hydrating. That will help with that digestive issue.
Definitely. And fiber is so important for many reasons, but if you're focusing on eating fiber-packed foods, it will benefit your gut health for sure. It also helps like regulate bowel movements. Not going to get into the details of soluble fiber versus insoluble fiber, but just know there are different types of fiber that can target more what gut issues you might be having. If you don't have gut issues, don't worry about it. And then it also will keep you full. Fiber is very filling. So if you notice that you're someone who you eat and then you're hungry right away, or you get cravings, you want to snack all day, every day, increasing your fiber could just eradicate those cravings. And that's a little bit of effort to see a huge change in your body. So that's a huge reason we promote it as far as like weight loss or weight management. But fiber also regulates your blood sugar, which has a lot to do with, preventing diabetes, managing sugar cravings, like all of these things, weight management. Fiber is so huge when it comes to insulin and how your body, deals with all of that stuff. So again, not going to get into the specifics, but just know if you're eating more fiber, you are likely to feel a lot better. Digestion's going to go well. So you're probably just going to look better too.
Yep.
And if you're curious, whole food sources of fiber, some of the best ones include berries, chia seeds, avocado, beans, legumes, whole grains, artichokes actually are very high in it, like Brussels sprouts. Not all veggies and fruits are high in fiber. So this is where I think a lot of people are like blown away that they could eat veggies every day and still not get a lot of fiber. They have fiber, but because vegetables are so low calorie and a lot of packed with water, you would just have to eat so much to get enough fiber. Whereas things like chia seeds, like 1 tablespoon, I think is about 7 grams of fiber, which is like very significant for something like so small. So you just need to make sure you are eating the right foods. Like popcorn is also a good one. But I would say, like, for me, avocado, the reason I eat it pretty much every day if I have one home and available is because of the fiber and fats. I love it, but the fiber in an avocado is so efficient that it's like a no-brainer. So if you're doing avocado, some berries, and then maybe, some beans, like, you'll probably hit your fiber goal. So just a few things there.
Yep.
Fortified fibers is a whole topic of its own. So a lot of processed foods could have fiber added to it as like a health boost. Some of these fibers are synthetic, some are not. But certain ones can cause true GI discomfort. So a lot of like protein bars that have a ton of fiber in there, they could, cause some gas or bloating. The Better Bagel, like, let's talk about it. Why? The Better Bagel is this protein-packed bagel. I think it has like 30 grams of protein or something really high. And it also has, I think, like 30 grams of fiber. It's just astronomical. But it's all from like resistant wheat starch, and a lot of people eat that and then they're like farting all day. Like, these things happen. So it's like there is such thing as too much fiber. I'm not saying not to have that, but you should pay attention to how you feel after eating those things. Because fiber is becoming a buzzword, just like protein. So now companies are going to pack their stuff with fiber. And that's where we get into the whole net carbs conversation. It's very confusing, and a lot of diet foods have a ton of fiber added to them, but not all fiber is created equal. So I'm not saying not to eat those foods, but if you're trying to hit your fiber goal and just be healthy, then eating whole foods is where it's at, and that will, best bang for your buck, because you're also getting other nutrients in there. If you're eating berries, it's not just fiber, you're getting all sorts of things. Whereas fortified added fibers are just fiber. They're not offering any other nutrient benefits.
That's right. And even there's, if you Google high fiber foods, you'll get a lot of good answers like berries and chia seeds. But what comes up a lot is whole wheat bread, pasta. Yeah. And, that's a bit of that same rabbit hole where it's not all created equal. So just be careful. Just because you're eating a high fiber bread, it might not have the same effect as eating an avocado.
Yeah, it's a little hard to know how much fiber you're consuming if you're not tracking your food. So I do think if you're curious, if you're like, wow, I have no idea how much fiber I eat, log your food 1 to 5 days, see what your average is, and then you have a good idea, and then you would know what to tweak. Very few people we work with come to us eating enough fiber. It's usually a huge area of opportunity that we work on, especially if your diet is high in carbohydrates, low in fiber. That's how we know you're not choosing the right foods, or you could improve food quality and eat fewer processed foods. So it's like a direct gauge also of the quality of food you're eating.
That's right. Yeah, I am not tracking my food currently. Obviously earlier, especially when we were working together, I was daily, but it took me maybe 3 days to nail my fiber. And I was like, okay, if I'm including a vegetable or fruit at breakfast, which I often wasn't doing, and then I make my smoothie where I use the antioxidant mix, I think they call it. It's like strawberries, blueberries, blackberries. That's it. It's like that's 30 plus right there. And so I never really think about it anymore, other than I can tell when I've been bad, if I've been like traveling or eating a lot of fast food or whatever. I'm like, oh, I can feel a lot less regular, a lot more bloated. It really is pretty amazing. Last thing I'll add, I hate scare tactics. I don't like to scare people into working on their health. I think it's the wrong motivator. Unfollow people who are constantly shaming you. But there is a rise of colon cancer. It's a very serious thing, especially in young people. And we are still, when I say we, I mean everyone, still trying to figure out exactly what the causes are, but lots of early research on the importance of fiber. I think Kat and I both agree. I think red meat is often maybe unnecessarily demonized. Yes, there are times where maybe you should avoid it for certain reasons, but increasing your fiber is going to be so much more important for your long-term health too, and helping your digestive system operate the way it is supposed to, instead of swearing off an entire category of food that is in many ways incredibly healthy for you.
100%. I actually think if you didn't care about calories, fats, or carbs, but you pay attention to protein and fiber, you're good. Like, you're gonna be doing very well. I don't really care how many calories you're eating. Of course, that matters, but if you pay attention to protein and fiber, like, you're going to feel much better. And that's like, we're not talking about protein today. We've talked about it enough.
Yeah.
But, these two go together to make some profound changes in people.
If you DM Kat on Instagram the word burn, you get the Fat Loss Fuel Guide, which is exactly that. And it's probably our best guide if you don't want to track your food, but do want to see results.
Yeah, and that guide will also outline like a bunch of meals that have 30 grams of protein, at least 10 grams of fiber. So that's a really good resource. So just DM me the word burn. But if you forget the word, just DM me anyway.
That's right. All right, so number 2, fiber, and we'll recap these at the end. Number 3 is one that is near and dear to my heart, and I do this every single day, and it sounds like a hot take, and it's really not, because I promise it will change your life, but that is eating food before drinking coffee. And I will add drink water as well, right, Kat? Maybe have a glass of water and some food before drinking coffee. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would definitely say that water. But, coffee, and we're talking about morning coffee, like not your afternoon. You've already had a few meals and you need to eat something. I actually have no idea how much time between eating, if you have a coffee, if that disrupts anything. But if you're having coffee before any breakfast, it's definitely something that you might feel effects of. Not everybody does. Like, I'll say myself, if I have coffee, I don't feel any different if I have food or don't have food. But I also don't have a ton of digestion issues. People who have like heartburn and stuff, this can be like a profound switch. And then hormonal stuff. But I'm going to start more with the gut stuff. So it will reduce irritation in the gut lining. Coffee is acidic, so if you're having coffee first thing, it can irritate your stomach. A lot of people know that you can run to the bathroom after having coffee. So if you have a meal before it, it's likely to slow down that response from happening, which can be, pretty important for someone's morning routine. Coffee does stimulate gut motility. So the reason people run to the bathroom is because it's like making your digestion like work a little bit faster. And if you have food in there, it can create a more stable environment for digestion and a healthy microbiome. So, a lot of other benefits there. Another reason, and this is probably more important to women on the call, is the hormonal balance. Like, yes, this can impact men, but I find that this is just something women are very big on, like coffee for breakfast, because they're trying to diet and lose weight. It's not necessarily because I'm super busy and I don't have time. Of course there is that, but usually it's like a nice strategy to avoid eating until like noon, because coffee will blunt your appetite. But coffee stimulates cortisol production, which is like the stress hormone. So cortisol is supposed to naturally peak in the morning, but if you have coffee on an empty stomach, it can make it, peak even higher, or like exacerbate that spike. And then that can lead to hormonal imbalances over time. And usually if you're someone who drinks coffee without food, you're doing that every day. Like, it's a routine thing. People's like coffee is like, it's like a sacred moment for everyone. Yep. I have my rituals. Andrew has his rituals. Yep. Like, we get it. But if you can just get a little something in, that can make a big difference on, cortisol. And a lot of people are really high stress these days. Cortisol is through the roof, and that's causing a lot of issues. Belly fat accumulation could be one. Waking up in the middle of the night or between like 2 and 4 a.m., that could be another sign. So if those things sound like things you're experiencing, just try having some food before, and you might notice like a big change over time. And coffee on an empty stomach can temporarily raise your blood sugar. It can cause a little spike in blood sugar. So that's another reason to have like a balanced meal, or at least some protein, maybe some fat, before you have that coffee, just to help stabilize blood sugar levels, because everyone needs to be paying attention to that these days. It's so easy to be, dysregulated in that department. You know, and I know everyone wants to get their energy up first thing in the morning, but what gives you a lot of energy is food. Having a meal, you'd be shocked how good you can feel having like a larger or just like a medium-sized breakfast before you have coffee. But few people take the time to like prioritize nutrition at that time of day.
Right. And we're not talking a long time. I mean, I have quite busy mornings. I can identify with a lot of parents here. My son has to be at school at 7:50, which means we're leaving the house at like 7:30-ish. So I'm up at 6:37. I have to get 2 kids ready, myself ready, pack a lunch, all this stuff in 30 minutes. It's so easy for me to just grab the coffee and go. Once you do this for a few days, what you will find outside of, yes, the urgency of running to the bathroom, which I do not ever get anymore, and I do not miss that, is just more sustained energy. And I feel like I used to live and die off of those coffee spikes and crashes. And now I feel good the minute I wake up. I have my protein heavy breakfast. I either will make my coffee to go, or I'll have it when I get back from dropping off my kids, which is like 8, which like isn't all that late. But I don't need it. I'm not relying on it. And I think you have to break that cycle, and it can be hard the first day or two. It is a drug. There are withdrawal symptoms. So you can always try, do like a half cup first or something if you need. But once you break that cycle and you start looking at food and water as that real source of energy, letting your cortisol naturally wake you up, you will feel amazing. And then you get to treat yourself with coffee and get another buzz without the crash. Man, it's very freeing. I know it's hard, but I love it. It really is great. It's not a hot take at all.
And it doesn't need to be a lot of food. Like, that's one thing. You could just do, like, we recommend a meal, but honestly, if you can't do a meal and you just want to do, like, a bar or a banana and some nuts, like, it doesn't need to be, like, anything super specific that you have, but it also can't be something too small. Because you want to reduce the blood sugar spike, so you should have at least, like, maybe 15 grams of protein. So it's also, I'm okay with if you have like a little something, coffee, and then like a breakfast. Or if you eat a little something and then are sipping on coffee while you eat a bigger breakfast, like things like that are okay. So it's not like you have to have a sit down, like gourmet, make an omelet meal. You can have something quick, smoothie, fastest, easiest breakfast in the world. You can take it on the go with you and then have coffee after. So that's one tweak to make, but I'm just telling all the women on here right now, if you're high stress or if you have kids, you're running around all day, you don't have time to eat, and then you rely on coffee, like you should really, really try changing this up, because it will have a big difference. And if you have high cortisol, whatever efforts you're doing to lose weight might not work, period. Yep. You need to adjust what's causing the stress, and what you eat can cause stress. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind.
And it's hard, and you're not crazy. This is why it's nice to have coaches in your corner, either through this podcast or in our program or whatever, is coffee is everywhere. Every shirt is like, don't talk to me until I have my coffee. All those like pithy shirts. You go to the car dealership to get your car. It's like the dumpiest waiting room of all time, but they have coffee, right? I've worked at some pretty bad corporate offices where there's zero perks of any kind. I have a dusty old keyboard, but there's a coffee machine. Like, it is, for some reason, a staple of American life. Really, I think everywhere in life, it's a pretty big, drug globally. And it is amazing. No one's telling you not to drink it. I have it every single day. Kat does too. But it does, I think, some of the negative effects, if you are drinking it on an empty stomach and at the wrong time, I think people mask that more than they should. So trust us on this one.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember, by the way, my quick aside, my honeymoon in Africa. We're in the middle of nowhere. They call it the bush in South Africa. There's nothing but like baboons and like no running water or anything. We're just in a little camp, and we're going on a safari, and we had a little breakfast of like cheese and a banana and something else, and they had the little French press and making us coffee for the safari. It's just like, you gotta have it. It's wild how much we're all built on it as humans, but I love it. I can't imagine my life without it, honestly.
Yeah, there are a lot of health benefits, so keep that in mind too. Coffee is not the problem, it's the timing, period.
I see more and more, I don't even click on the links anymore, but so many studies, it's like, coffee improves your longevity. I'm like, great, that's good. Probably wouldn't change my mind, but good to see it. Okay, I want to add one more thing, by the way. I don't drink drip coffee. I haven't really ever in probably 10 years, on occasion, maybe at a diner. Really helps with my stomach issues. And so if you are having stomach issues continually, even after prioritizing food over coffee, explore straight espresso, explore lattes, explore something other than drip coffee. That is kind of an American trend, actually, where we make coffee this like very large 20-ounce acidic water. Not to hate if you like it, but it can be really tough on your stomach. Whereas a latte, you have milk in there, so fat and protein, or if you do espresso, it's just less volume. That can make a big change as well if coffee doesn't agree with you, because I know it's hard to say goodbye to it completely. All right. Number 4, probably not the most popular, but very important, which is do a bit of a spring cleaning, winter cleaning of your fridge. A fridge clean out. Kat, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so fridge and pantry. Actually, your pantry needs it because things are growing mold back there that you don't even know. So I think like the way people do a closet clean out, donate some clothes to something, like we want to do the same for your fridge, because the more stuff you have that you're actually like not eating, the worse for your healthy habits, I think. Or if you're buying a bunch of snacks, I know it could be wasteful, but if you do have a bunch of things that don't align with your new nutrition goals, get rid of them, throw them out, give them to a neighbor, bring them to work. I don't know, find something to do with it that you feel okay about, but having them in your house is not helping you. So that's one thing to get rid of, but also like get rid of all the expired stuff. Just make space. I want you to make space so you can do like a giant stock up on all the healthy things that you want to have, that you want to eat, and just have them available in your fridge and pantry. Like I have so many people say like, I don't have room in my freezer. I'm like, well, what's in there?
Right.
What's going on in your freezer that you don't have room to like put proteins in, like meat? Stock up on that. So I'm like, those are the things to get rid of, or the all the half-eaten boxes of crackers in your pantry. Just get rid of them and just like stock up on some new stuff. And this will also save you time and money in the future when you have everything you need exactly when you want it. And I know this will take time, but I'm kind of an organization freak. So I love a good container, some labels. Like you can make it fun too if you can like organize so you have everything readily available. I put things like certain categories of things all together. So if I know I'm looking for like a grain, I have them all here in this one box. So I'm not looking all over the place. So it's very easy to just like organize yourself like that, and it can make all the difference in the world. And I would recommend doing this like quarterly, maybe every 3 months is a good time to do this. But definitely your fridge and anything that's in your fridge or pantry, you should be able to see. If things are out of sight, those should either be like backup, so it's not like something you would need right away, it's just like extra, or something that you really aren't using all the time. But if there are things, if you go to the grocery store and you're like, oh, I definitely want to eat this spinach, like make sure that's not just like making its way to the very back of the fridge, because then you won't see it and you definitely won't choose it. So you can align these things so it's just easier for you to find things. And I know this is like not a sexy habit, and this is something a lot of people don't want to do, but this makes, a huge difference, because the more space you have, also, it just feels better. Everyone likes getting rid of stuff. It's just like doing it can be annoying, but I think this is a really important habit. And you also just need to take stock of what you have. Like, I live in New York City, so I don't have a lot of storage space. But when I go to people's homes and I'm walking in a pantry that I'm like walking inside of, and it's the size of, my bathroom, I am blown away by the amount of food people can accumulate. And like, what is that? You haven't touched that in 4 years. Why is it here? Like, those are the things to get rid of, because it's, out of sight, out of mind. And then you just stock up on new stuff. You want a fresh start, fresh food, clean out your fridge. Like, it can make such a big difference.
And I understand that it can be difficult to throw out food. It may seem wasteful. What if I eat it? What if I need it in 2 months? There are exceptions. If like you have a box of pasta that's going to last 5 more years, then sure, keep it. But you have to just embrace the fact that this needs to go. It's going to get thrown out at some point. You might as well throw it out now, because you do want to make room for that healthy food. And if you are on a journey this year, you need to set yourself up for success. Go back and listen to our grocery store episode if you haven't heard it. lots of frozen protein suggestions and other non-perishable suggestions that you maybe don't have and are resistant to buying because you feel like you have all this food already that you need to eat first, but you're not eating it or maybe shouldn't eat it. So get rid of the industrial sized box of goldfish. It's not good for you. I know it's not ideal to throw it out. If you want find a way to donate it, great. Although if it's open, it's just, probably not. Just accept it and move forward, and that's okay, right? It's okay.
Yeah, learn and don't do it again.
Exactly. All right. So number 5, we touched on this a little bit in our couples episode, but this one is so important as well, which is to sit down and plan for the year with the people in your life who have an impact on your time. That could be your partner or your spouse. It could be your boss, your manager at work. It could be a nanny, a babysitter, anyone in your life who is impacting your schedule. You need to meet with them about your goals. Unfortunately, you probably can't meet with your kids unless they're in high school. I would love to meet with my 3-year-old and tell her I need some more space. No, I'm kidding. Not everyone is receptive to this, but you have to all be on the same page. You have to do this in a way that is structured at the right time, not an emotional conversation in the moment, a logical conversation that you've sat down and planned, maybe with an agenda, maybe with something in writing. What are you looking to do this year and how? When are you going to the gym? Are they helping you with dropping off your kids? Is your boss going to let you come in late on Tuesdays? I'm going to speak to the corporate America thing in particular in a second, Kat, because I did that for so many years. But what do you want to add to this before I dive specifically into talking to your manager? Because I know you do a lot of coaching with our clients on how to have these conversations.
I think this does a few things. It reduces stress, so you don't have to be stressed out all the time about, your time. You just know you have set windows where people know you're doing something and, makes your life a lot easier. I think it also builds accountability because now if you made a whole thing to say, I want this time and I need this time to do whatever, you better do it because that person knows if you're not. So there's definitely an accountability thing there. And at the end of the day, people are motivated by specific things and integrity is one of them, is keeping your word. So I think this is a good way to kind of set up, a little trap there to make sure you do what you say. And then it also creates a supportive environment. If for you to thrive, you need support and people want to support you. They probably just don't know how. So if you have this conversation, it's creating a more supportive environment for you, which will only positively work in your favor.
Yep. And I didn't say this in our couples episode, but I think it's appropriate now, which is if you have a somewhat unsupportive partner in your house, at some point, the responsibility does also fall on you to have this conversation. And if you let them get away with never picking up the kids or never cooking dinner and you haven't said anything, then you also need to do that. Again, do it in a logical way, do it in a compassionate way. Maybe they don't realize what they're doing, but if you let them continue that behavior, they're not going to change. They're probably not going to wake up one day and be like, I realize that you take the kids every morning and I never let you swim anymore or whatever. It's probably not going to happen. But if you approach it and this person loves you and cares about you, then that will happen. And so it is a bit on you to own that conversation. Mm-hmm. I do want to touch on corporate America real quick. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that I saw in my 15 years in the corporate world. And if you don't know me, I've worked in New York City, I've worked in San Francisco, I've worked very high stress jobs. I traveled 50,000 plus miles a year on airplanes. I had sales quotas. I met with CMOs. I'm not flexing. I'm just saying I didn't grow up in a gym. I know what you're going through if you're listening to this. I think too many people look at their 40-hour week I owe every minute of this to my employer and I cannot take time for myself. And I think that's a huge mistake. And I'll tell you why for a couple of reasons. One, if anything, spend more time with your family and less with your job. What's important to you, really? If you take all 40 hours a week for your job and you're never going to the gym or going to the grocery store or eating healthy during that time, well, there's very little time left for you that you're also now probably blending into your social life and your family life. But also, you are paid for what you know, not for what you do. Unless you're an intern and you're running around getting coffee, then sorry, you're getting paid for what you do. But most of you listening to this probably work, jobs at corporations and things like that. You need to show up as your best self every day. If you have a quarterly review or a sales pitch or a busy season and you are burnt out, then you are not being a good employee. And your employer doesn't want that. Are they going to find that space for you? No. It's not on your manager or your job in general to be like, hey, you seem a little stressed, go take some time. But they do want you to contribute to the bottom line, right? That's how they really care about you at the end of the day, is to help their company grow. And you actually have aligned incentives to work less. If you take a few hours a week to exercise, you will show up to work more ready to work and feeling better and thinking more clearly and lower stress. And I have been in so many meetings with so many people who think they're so good at their job because they work so hard, and they come in and they're yelling and they're irrational, and everyone at the table is like, I don't want to listen to this person because they're burnt out and they're stressed and they care too much about work. No one wants to work with that person, and maybe they haven't said that to you, but that is the truth. And so I promise you, if you carve out just a few hours a week for yourself, meditate, yoga, strength training, have a lunch outside, just anything for your mental health and physical health, I promise you will be better at your job. And I famously did this for a very long time. If you worked with me at Apple, you can call in on the show right now. I was out the door at 3:00 every day. And I am not bashful because I was doing well, because I picked up my kids, which made me happy, or I went to the gym, or both, and I would show up and perform well. And compare that to my days in New York City where I was working 50, 60-hour weeks, and I was stressed, and I was passed up for promotions, and I was yelling at people. Like, it's not how you're supposed to work. So please hear me on that. If you have questions on that, message me. I'm happy to help. Rant over.
It's so important. And I will say one thing you, Andrew, have like truly shaped my life with is like really understanding that being super busy is not a flex. It's not. And in New York City, it's 100% a flex. I've never walked into someone and they'll be like, how you doing? So busy. Oh, so busy. Like, that's what makes you like valuable here. And you really helped me like shift completely to a 180 to where I'm like, that's not cool that you're doing that. I'm not like, oh, wow, like you must work so harder than me. I'm like, actually, no, your life, like that sucks and I feel bad for you. But I also think like it's on everyone. It's like fully your accountability. Like if you're working yourself to the bone, like that's your fault.
Yep.
And you can change it. But I think like just this shift, like the past year especially, is like it's so nice because you also don't have this guilt about not doing things. Like it's just so wonderful. And yeah, you just have to make have a conversation to make sure you have the time. But I've never worked with someone where they told me they started doing worse at work because they were now working out or eating better and like, going to the grocery store. I've just never seen it reverse on them. So that's not something you would ever have to worry about. And also your boss doesn't even know that you're suffering. Like they probably just don't even think about it or you. So don't think about them so much.
Right. And if you're listening to this and you're like, yes, but I'm an exception because my job is, no, I'm sorry. It's not, you're not an exception. And I'm even checking myself, talking about how, well, now that I run my own business and I'm completely responsible for my own income, it's really easy for me to get caught up in that same thing. And I will check myself sometimes where I'm like, nope, you need to work out. Yes, I know we're not on target this week or whatever, but it's like, it doesn't matter what you do. Your health is more important because you're earning zero income if you're dead. Zero. Yep. Right? Or if you are I have seen people leave the workplace because their mental and or physical health is in such a bad place. Yeah. And thankfully there's, short-term disability, but like that's a real thing that happens all the time. And again, I'm not a scare tactic guy, but like take your health seriously. I promise your job isn't that important. Promise.
Yeah. I've heard this thing like a lot lately, and it's like, there must have been some study that came out, but it's like, what do people like on their deathbed say? And 100% of them are like, I wish I spent more time with my family. Like none of them are like, I wish I worked more. Not one person, and that's really important to keep in mind. I think about that sometimes and I'm like, wow, that's profound.
Yeah, it's wild,
but
right?
It's so true.
I get it. Like there's bills to pay, but like I said, the more you focus on yourself, the better you do. There's a great book called Great at Work by Morton Hansen, and it's called How Top Performers Do Less and Work Better. It's worth a read in general, but I incorporate some of those principles into my coaching because we have so many busy parents and busy professionals who work big jobs. And yeah, taking time to just like plan your week, yourself first, your job second, you will be better at your job. And do the same thing in your household as well. So
And that's a good New Year's resolution. If you're kind of like an overworker, like that could be a really good thing to focus on this year, is to just scale that back a little bit. Like I think that's a fantastic area of focus.
Totally agree. Okay. You want me to recap? 5 habits that you've probably never heard before. I hope so. Call in, let me know if you agree. Number 1, take photos of yourself from the front, from the side, from the back. Please do all 3 of them. Please don't hold the phone if you can. Use the self-timer. Also, you should be ideally in your underwear, bathing suit, something like that. Don't do it with your t-shirt on. I know it's uncomfortable, but you're not going to learn anything if you're wearing a baggy shirt. Number 2, fiber. Depends on your size, but generally speaking, 25 grams for women, 30 grams for men. You don't need to track this forever. You'll get a pretty good sense of where you are today. Try to increase it for a few days, and you will start to learn the habit of how to improve your fiber. You will feel the difference quite quickly. Energy, digestion, and maybe even weight loss. Number 3, food before coffee, maybe my personal favorite. We'll throw water in there as well, although I think a lot of people are doing that more now too. Helps with digestion, helps with regulating your hormones, helps stabilize those energy crashes. A really good habit. You can still drink coffee, just push it back an hour or so. It can be hard at first, but will make a big change. Number 4, clean out your fridge and your pantry. Again, not something you're looking forward to, but you only have to do it once. In my house now, we clean out our fridge as soon as the new groceries arrive. It's like, all right, that leftover, I'm not having it. I know it's sad to throw out this half piece of chicken, but like it's not happening. Let's make the room. That's a good habit. So once you do the big clean out once, you can be more on top of it moving forward. So try to incorporate that pretty soon. And then finally, plan a meeting. Strategize with the people in your life who manage your time. Could be your partner, could be your manager, could be lots of other people involved. You really need to sit down and tell them what your priorities are and come up with a plan for when you're going to work out, for how you're going to eat healthy, for what your strategy is for takeout and pizza night and all of those things. These are all really important things to meet about ahead of time, because when your kids ask you for ice cream, which they inevitably will, you want to have a plan in place. You can say yes, you can say no, you can say whatever your plan is, but don't wait until the last minute to have that plan. And don't let your employer dictate your schedule. I've said enough on that. Kat, anything else we've missed?
No, I think that's it. 2025 is the year, guys.
That's right. The year of your health, and every year beyond, of course. Well, happy 2025, everybody. Please join our New Year challenge. If you haven't yet, kicks off January 7th. We've talked about it enough. Just DM us the word challenge and get involved. No excuses, unless you are a client. But lots of our clients are in it as well, so free for clients. So please join our challenge. It's going to be a ton of fun. Last one we're doing for a good 4 or 5 months, I think. So would love to see you there. Happy New Year, everybody. Stay hydrated.